Aya Irene. When people are hearing the names Aya Sofia or Aya Irene, we are always eager to imagine about a queen, a martyr, a saint, someone called with these names. No, it wasn't about people, okay? It was about concepts like philosophia. In ancient Greek, it was meaning love of wisdom. Just like Aya Sophia was meaning divine, godly wisdom. Just like Aya Irene was meaning the divine, godly peace. So this is more like, let's say, some ancient namings on concepts. More than these, the bottom part of the building with the stones, with the big stones, are from the 4th century. Then you can see bricks are coming in from the 6th century. Because of a rebellion, the building was destroyed, reconstructed. And you can see the bricks on the upper parts are more reddish. They are from the 8th century. After, let's say, an earthquake, they repaired and reconstructed the building again. So if you ask me what's inside today, nothing. Just bare naked walls. No pictures, no mosaics, no frescoes, especially unlike Hagia Sophia, because it's from the 8th century, which is iconoclastic. No pictures were allowed in the church at that time as well. So this is why it's interesting, not spectacular, but good to know. It's one of the ancient buildings. So now we are in the fortress. We are leaving the gate of the guards. The windows you see from here, actually back in the time for the guards. And now it's going to be, let's say, the administration will start from second gate. This is where I'm going to start to explain more about the collections of the palace when you're approaching. Okay, you're just hearing azan, and this is also about the story. Each Friday, when the Grand Vizier, who was like a prime minister, when he's leaving the palace for Hagia Sophia for the prayers, the guy was supposed to collect the letters from people, because this first garden was public. A person from Istanbul or someone from provinces, they were able to come here. During the daytime, they can leave a letter of a complaint, petition, and request to an office behind the tree. Today you see stone foundations. Back in the time, you can leave a letter, or at Fridays, you can give in person to the guy, the authority in state business. Yes, more than the sultans, Grand Viziers are the guys who are in charge of things, okay? So sultans cannot help you with the bureaucracy. They are more above the mountains or behind the curtains. And more than that, this is a nice face of the power. With an open ear. Of course, we don't know, maybe the guy never read your letter, but you have the feeling you get one shot. On the other hand, there's also one ugly face. Behind the waiting line, you can see a fountain with some scripts on it. That fountain is called the executioner's fountain. So you can complain about things, but there are consequences, okay? Joke aside, it was never for common criminals. It was always for some elite bureaucrat minister being trialed in the palace, mostly kept in dungeons under the tower for treason, political games. But this is also where the palace is scaring away people with some violent message. So this is why I call this area an interaction zone between the public and the administration. Babu Salam, the gate, is quite medieval European, interestingly, because in Istanbul you don't see fortresses or in the region, because there was no lords, there was no feudal system. Since the Romans, there was always a centralized empire in this part of the world. But once we check the decoration, the rest of the walls, the gate is just decorative, okay? It's not defensive. So they were fancying about the medieval chateaus, but not much. So this is why you can see the flowers at the top of the defensive units. They look like fleur de lis, the French royal symbol, right? So this is where you can get some taste of, let's say, medieval culture. More than that, calligraphy. The piece at the top is a fundamental belief of Islamic, let's say, religion. So there's no God other than Allah, and Muhammad is his representative, his messenger. And down there you can see the medallion, and then down there you can see these panels with the signatures. Let's read one together. The one on the right with the green background says, Mustafa, son of Ahmed, forever victorious. Mahmud, son of Abdul Hamid, forever victorious. So, forever victorious part is a Roman inheritance. The Ottomans used like the Roman emperors, Semper Victoria. On the other hand, these are the names because portraits were not used for public representation. Don't take it too far. The Mehmet II, for example, the founder of this palace, the conqueror of Istanbul, the guy was inviting Gentile Bellini from Venice at the time of Renaissance for his portraits, but never used for public representation. That's the difference, okay? Until 1830s, it's all signatures. This is how a sultan put himself somewhere where he contributed reconstruction, construction, renovation, restoration, whatever it is. So now, it is time to go in. Let me take you, let's say, skipping all these lines to the turnstiles. I will use digital tickets, and all I need is you showing me the white papers you have, okay? That's the count I need. So, come in. Clocks, divan, next garden, you go over there, you can go to library, audience chamber, all the relics of Islam, and from there you can go to weekends, they're open. There is only one place that requires another ticket, which is the harem section. Ticket office is even visible from here. There's like a second museum inside Topkapi, okay? So let's say no collection inside the harem. There is only bathrooms, bedrooms, living rooms, the private quarters of the royalty in the harem. That's all. So, and now, as we are in the gate, let me explain you what we have here. I was already telling you, the walls are from 1460s and 70s. I was telling you, let's say, they lived here 400 years, 1850s, and there are layers. For example, the iron doors in the gate are from 1524. How do I, let's say, know that's specific? Because the guy signed it. It's signed by Isa bin Muhammad with 931 in Hijri calendar. In modern calendar, 1524. And ceilings, 18th century, 1700s. How do I know? The guy signed it. Sultan Mustafa, he paid for them. So, or the paintings on the wall. They are from 1820s. This is why Sultan Mahmud's name was on the gate too. 4 different centuries on a single gate. Or if I want to switch the timeline, I can show you the Roman marbles from there. They are 1,500 years old. They were from, let's say, this ancient capital. And this is the nature of this area. If you dig, you'll find something ancient. If you dig further, you'll find something more ancient. This is the nature of this old town Istanbul. So, more than the centuries, there are also the layers of the locations. So, each line was for different types of person. For example, the last line, going to the colonnades over there, it was for the guards. They were called baltacı. In Palestine, in Lebanon, in Syria, if you call someone nowadays baltacı, it means a criminal or killer or bully. And the reputation comes from these guys. Balta means axe in Turkish. They were axe using warriors, 16 kilogram heavy axes. So you can think, like they said, they were some elite guards of the harem gates and the divan, the elite of the family and the politics. So they were licensed killers by the sultans, okay? So this is why they were some spoiled guys back in the time. So the next line, going to harem, now you can understand it is also for the, let's say, private quarters and the family. Third line, I will take you myself for divan. Divan is the pre-modern parliament. So this is where bureaucrats, ministers, treasurers, commanders coming 4 times a week. I will explain you because it's important to understand how the palace was working. The central line here, widest one, only for the sultans. Like in those centuries, sultans were just passing by because the area was so close. And these last 2 lines are going to kitchens. When you're walking, you will realize the kitchens will look like a factory. Because they were cooking for 4,000 to 5,000 people every single day, twice. The kitchen is not enough, okay? You need a factory. This is why Sinan the architect designed this one in 1570s, and it's quite interesting for engineering and the collections inside. The rooms are designed to build massive fires inside, for, let's say, volumes of steam just to be out of the chimneys, and inside today you can find cooking stuff, serving stuff, and the coffee section, my favorite. There is a giant section just for coffee because they were addicts. Don't forget, the first coffee house of the world was opened in Istanbul by 2 guys from Arabia and with the seeds from Ethiopia. Yeah. So, and I know by text records, before the end of the 16th century, there were more than 200 coffee houses in Istanbul. They were addicts. So this is why in a collection you can just find the cups, grinders, brewers, roasters. So this is like a nice collection of, let's say, coffee culture. Today everybody knows there's Turkish coffee and it's so primitive, and that's the reason it's from 16th century. So I will have such sweet spots on the way, like 5, 6, 7 of those, and I will be giving you information. If you're coming with me, now I will continue with the corner over there until we reach the divan, then the next garden. Century by Lokman, a local painter, showing this garden, and what I care most, animals. There are gazelles over there. But today it looks like a public park, but back in the time it was filled with animals, especially exotic ones. I have seen from travelogues of the ambassadors, zebras, giraffes, tigers, and the exotic animals meant to impress them, by the way. Before National Geographic, if you show a guy an animal they haven't seen before, it's a nice show off, okay? So this is the place to do that. So, by the way, this is why there are water basins everywhere. They were for the animals back in the time. Today only parrots are still here, so the rest of the animals are gone. So still, let's say, we can find this trace of this, let's say, culture of the animals in the garden. And I will be taking you now here. Let me explain you the pathway. It's a stony path. There is a pillar between each and every stone. Now concrete is making it easy to walk on here. But before, it was all gaps. First, to make it impossible, because it was only for the sultans, or being on the horseback, they could break ankles here. And even for the human beings, it was difficult to walk on. If you were a prime minister, coming for divan meetings 4 times a week, even you have to be looking down, binding your hands on your belly, and while you taking care of your steps, you'll see stones on the right between the lavanders. So they're called salutation stones. Everybody was supposed to greet them. First, second, after third stone, you can look ahead. We arrived in divan. How under control it was, okay? No sudden moves, no runnings, no standing toes, no hiding hands. So this is a security measure done by deliberately walking difficult here, okay? So let's go to divan.
That's the name.
This is the side effect of the absolute power. They are always having this feeling they're coming at you.
It's just like the put it pressure presence, or you are watching a king live over there,
Yeah.
making a difference between you and
Yeah, this is nowhere. We are approaching to an exception. In the palace, there is no high structure. Everything is 1 or 2 stories. Except this one, the tower is like a landmark. It's visible from anywhere. From Galata, from Asian side, from Bosphorus Bridge. Whenever you look at the old town, this is showing you where the palace is. It's called Tower of Justice. That's how the sultans wanted to be seen, okay? They always wanted to be seen as a provider of justice. So this is giving people a reason why you are here. More than that, can you see the walls are changing at a certain level? It's up to bricks and stone, then turns into complete stone walls. This is a reconstruction showing you nice contrast, because down the building you can see quite classic divan from Turkish-Iranian fusion. And then the tower is coming quite a European way now, in the 18th century reconstruction with neoclassics. Can you see? The columns are popping up with the, let's say, neoclassic, let's say, capitals around the windows. That's a nice fusion. Istanbul's cliche about being bridge between east and west, this is where it becomes physically visible. Okay? So this is where you can see in architecture, but also in decoration. There are 2 rooms of divan. And the first room in the corner will be quite Turkish with the tiles and penworks, and the second room will be quite Baroque. So another, let's say, way of, let's say, contrasting them. Don't forget, this is not a nation state, this is an empire. An empire is always willing to have things side by side. They want always to be the collectors. So, more than the architecture and decoration, let me explain you what we have here. In the corner room, which is called divan, there are literally divans. Divan is the sofa. There are 3 sofas. But also divan is the name of the organization. Today in Turkey, if you call for a meeting between the board of trustees, it's calling for divan. Okay? So this is still, let's say, continuing, let's say, tradition. On the other hand, inside the, let's say, room, on the central point of the divans, you see an extra layer, a cover for the Grand Vizier, the prime minister who is leading the gatherings. Above and behind of the spot of the Grand Vizier, you will see a cage-like window. That's for the sultans. They can come and listen. But you don't know if the guy is there or not, unless he coughs or does something, okay, to be recognized. But his, listen, mission was to watch over. He will have a final word if he wishes to, because I will show you the audience chamber next garden. Sultan will be asked, this is what we have discussed, this is the outcome, blah, blah. But if you want to really interfere, rarely happening, but if the Sultan really wanted to interfere, he can knock the window, the session stops. The Grand Vizier goes to the audience chamber, they meet there, they talk in person. When they're coming back, they continue, okay? So this is more like, let's say, where you can understand this political kind of, let's say, position in the palace emerging here. And the first room is for this one. And the second room with the same entrance, separated by a curtain in the middle, is for the inscriptios, advisors, and secretaries. So, records. Official notes of the palace was taken to the third room with the white walls you see today with the entrance. It's the archives. I told you I'm a historian. I've been to archives, very boring job, but there are billions of papers from these guys. They kept a memory of things run in this place, okay? So, and the final room with the pink cement and stony walls, treasury. All the money from all the provinces were coming there. So payments, budgets, all made there. Now we can get the logic. Money, records, politics, topped by the concept of justice. This is state in a nutshell, okay? So this is the organizational backbone of the empire and the palace. And everything else you see is whirling around it. Kitchens, harem, sultan's garden next, public meetings. This is all happening around this success, if it's there. So today there are nice collections here too, just like the kitchens. You can see here some nice collections. For example, the archives I mentioned with the white walls, opening into clocks and watches. Russian, Turkish, German, British, French, nice clocks and watches. Why so international? Because it was always a good gift between royalties, okay? So there's a nice collection over there. Especially I like the astronomical ones. So, and the final one, the corner treasury I mentioned, is now having the shiniest collection of the palace. Sultan's armories, weapons and jewelries. So it's the most expensive one in the palace today. You can see some diamonds, rubies, jades and steel works. So they are waiting for you whenever you wish. They are just available, okay? So they're here. So, another garden, another gate. So now you're knowing the concept. This time it's called Babu Saade, another Arabic naming, this time the meaning gate of felicity, gate of happiness. And I like to, let's say, always introduce you this one. So you can see this third gate now in use, where we are. This is Selim III, the Sultan, at his first day on the job. So this is coronation day, okay? This is where you can see the Sultan, this is where you can see his entourage. This is like, let's say, ministers, pashas, and then you can see scholars, students, guards, clergy, bureaucrats, different ranks of societies in the palace as they are looking in the year of French Revolution, painted by Constantin Capital, a local painter. So, this is a ceremonial gate for the royalties interacting with the state bodies. This is why it's called so Gate of Felicity or Happiness. So, it wasn't always for the happiest days. So, for example, you can imagine 300 people here, the lieutenants of the army janissaries, when they are getting the payments for 3 monthly basis, they are paid from the treasury. So, when they get the bags, for 100 people waiting outside for each, so you can expect 30,000 people waiting outside in the city or outside the city. So, they're also being offered the soup from the kitchen. If they drink the soup, it's all fine. If they don't touch the soup, they're not happy with the payment. This is a place of tensions too, okay? This is where sultans were, let's say, seeing the rest of the state bodies. For example, you will see a marble spot on the marble platform over there. There's something to remove, and you can stick the flag instead. When the army is leaving for a campaign, this is like handing over the flag to the commander-in-chief. So it's more like delegating power, military power, to someone when they are leaving. By the way, the best detail I like about the painting, can you see the tree over there? Still the same one. It was quite a nice summer, by the way. It was full green, so now it's like, let's say, winter is passing by. So let's see. If there had been a logo of the palace,
excuse me, why is it called Gate of White Eunuchs?
Yeah, so when we are passing through the gate, you will see two statues on the left. They look like from Madame Tussauds. So they're called Babu Sade Aga. Aga means chief in Turkish. These guys were chief eunuchs, the castrated slaves. As it is their responsibility from this gate on, this is their gate. Because they are, let's say, organizing the garden in the name of the Sultan. In the harem, there are, let's say, also Agas, and they have been African. Courts outside empire. Because hypocrisy, it was forbidden to castrate anyone in the empire, but they were buying it. One from Alexandria, Egypt, African eunuchs, both for the harem, and the Caucasian ones from, let's say, mostly Caucasian territories by Tatar slave traders, right here. So this is why you see the name over there too, because this is now their area. They are organizing under the name of the Sultan. By the way, they were slaves and handicapped slaves on one hand, but don't be surprised when you see a mosque in old downtown Istanbul, Hacı Beşir Aga or Gazanfer Aga. Those guys were rich enough to build a mosque under their name. So it's a conflict, I know, but being Aga is something powerful. When you arrive, there is first a giant window, right? Is it for a good view? No. It's for your gifts. You shouldn't come with empty hands to see a sultan, right? You bring something. So you show a chest, a tray, and then the gifts go in from there. Then you go in from here. First the gifts, then you. It's cash, okay? So there is no taking it back. So once you're inside today, you will see two thrones. One throne out of golden here, is the same one you have seen on the painting there. So you can understand it is the mobile one. The throne in the back, bigger one, purple one, is the Sultan's throne in the audience chamber since the 16th century. So since the time of Sultan Süleyman, that throne in the back was here. So this is really, although it looks like a king-size bed, it's where the sultans were sitting and they say welcoming people coming from some mission. We have paintings showing the sultan sitting there. Sometimes there are swords, shields, or books around them. Possibly they were signaling their attitude at the day, okay? So more like warlike or just a wise wisdom, whatever it is they wanted to tell. So the golden one is from the 18th century, the one you have seen on the 18th, and the back is the 16th century. One detail, the fountain over there, the fountain here, they are not for drinking, they are designed for sound. If someone is trying to overhear from outside, they will hear the sound of water. It's like a jammer, okay? All the servants of this room were deaf and mute people. And this is, let's say, measured by coming from outside. So if you're not in the room, you won't hear. And one other note, purple and gold. On the throne, everything was supposed to be purple and gold. They were the imperial colors since the Romans. They were the most expensive ones, but money is not enough. You should be royalty for these colors. This is why there is no national flag out of purple in the world. Because before modern textiles, forget about millions. A few hundreds of flags are impossible. Okay? So you need some sea creatures, some shells, some snails to make this purple happen. This is why on the marble, on the fabrics, purple is all here. So let's go through and continue. Abdul Majid is the Sultan who repaired the room after a fire in 1840s. At the end, I will show you a palace. Oh, watch it. These are for the dining room.
No, este también. No. Pero eso qué es, reina. Los tronos. Estáis un trono de tres.
तो किंग साइज है इसमें 4-5 बीवियां हैं मतलब सुल्तान जो है नहीं मैं मतलब कहने का मतलब ये तो बड़ा बेड है तो आई जाएगी सर तो जा रहा हूँ
इस टूटी में से पानी
नहीं मैं जा रहा हूँ हाँ नहीं इसमें से पानी
Why there is a library in the middle of the Imperial garden? The title I called you Imperial, the meaning inside. So it was actually the elite school of the empire. Don't forget, the Ottomans are picking young boys from their families, especially from distant provinces, particularly from Christian families. They were taking one of the boys from families having more than one boy. And they were raising the boys as the soldiers, janissaries. When they are raising an army of 30,000-40,000 people, they are looking for the smarter ones. The guys learning how to read and write easier, math, some other special talents. They were picking the boys for schools in Edirne, Üsküdar, Galata, some peripheral places. So, and from the schools, they're also looking for the best ones. So there have been examinations to take them to the royal school here. You know what is the last examination? Sitting 3 days in silence in the gate to just pass. If you sit there 72 hours without talking, you'll be accepted into dormitories and undergraduate. Then you'll be raised with the sons of the sultans. If you remember, I was telling you about the prime ministers here and there. They were all coming from Greece, Croatia, Georgia, Algeria, Albania, Bosnia, Serbia. They're not Istanbulites, they're not Turkish actually when they were born. So this is more like a system, dividing boys and raising them as the future elites. So they were also converting into Muslim, let's say, citizens of the palace, and also they are becoming the candidate for the jobs. Not only for the ministers, by the way. The architect of the Blue Mosque, who was called Sedefkar Mehmet, his title is telling us he was a carpenter, master of shells. I know from his memoir he was a musician too, and he was becoming an architect in this garden. And in 1609 he was commissioned to build the Blue Mosque under the patronage of Sultan Ahmet I. So this is where you can understand the elites of different matters were raised by this garden.